Hey friends! NASA recently announced they'll be investigating UFOs. But that wouldn't be the first time. No. You can see how NASA handles flying saucers in the movie I have for you this time. Namely, Hangar 18. A Schick Sunn schlocker from 1980. Our story goes like this. The space shuttle is on orbit to launch a satellite, but when the rocket booster fires, it collides with a UFO. This promptly crashes in Arizona. Naturally, the government moves in and grabs the thing, which includes dead alien dudes. Meanwhile, the shuttle pilots land and are made the patsies for the accident, which killed an astronaut who was outside of the shuttle during the collision. See, Robert Vaughn here is working for the White House, and the president doesn't believe in UFOs and has publicly said so. He's campaigning for re-election, so Vaughn wants this whole UFO thing hushed up until the election is over. So instead of bringing in the pilots to the team investigating the captured saucer, he sees to it they get the blame for the accident. Minus any info about flying saucers, of course. So our intrepid pilots try to track down evidence of what happened, which brings in men in black types working for Vaughn. Eventually, this leads to Hangar 18, where the saucer is being kept while a team of Air Force and NASA personnel are studying it. But now Vaughn decides the whole project needs to be made to disappear, including the team working on the saucer. Will the team discover the purpose of the saucer and its crew before Vaughn eliminates them? And what are the aliens up to anyway? In our cast, we have Robert Vaughn back with us as a slimy political operator. He's so good at that. James Hampton, a very familiar face on TV at the time, he plays Lou, the shuttle co-pilot. Joe Campanella is here, William Schallert appears, and even Kolchak himself is on hand as Darren McGavin plays the NASA man in charge of the saucer research. And of course, we have the stalwart charm of Gary Collins as the shuttle astronaut Steve Bancroft. Collins was always great, and it's always nice to see him in stuff. Schick Sunn Classic Pictures cranked out a lot of content for over 15 years, starting in 1971. Much of that content was low-budget stuff and speculative pseudoscience documentaries. But they also made stuff like the Grizzly Adams TV series and many TV movies. Sunn had a gimmick they employed to rake in lots of cash from their theatrical pictures, called the four-wall technique. What they'd do is rent out a screen in a bunch of theaters so they could get all the box office returns from it, and then advertise the heck out of their movie on TV. When people came to see the movie, the tickets were slightly higher than the going price for other movies, but people paid the higher price anyway. One of their movies, In Search of Noah's Ark, raked in 50 million smackers that way, and that was in 1976 money. So they were pretty successful. Hangar 18 was one of those movies and was advertised as one of their pseudoscience documentaries, despite being a straight-up movie. Interestingly, this movie depicted the use of the space shuttle before one had ever been put in orbit. That's right. Up to that time, the only version of the orbiter that had flown was the Enterprise, which was only used for drop tests. In fact, the shuttle we see landing in the picture is footage from the Enterprise test flights. But the way the shuttle is depicted here is surprisingly accurate for a movie like this. This is how the space shuttle was actually supposed to work. So, is this thing any good? Well, No. I mean, it has its charms, yeah. It's not outright awful, but it isn't exactly Citizen Kane or anything. What action there is okay. The cast is mostly good. I liked Collins and Vaughn especially, but most of the scientists are kinda lame, and even Kolchak seems a bit over the top most of the time. The special effects are hit or miss too. We see the saucer fire laser beams once, and it levitates in the hangar for a few seconds once, which looked cool, but those were the only two animated special effects sequences. The stuff in space is fair to middling, and the computer display graphics NASA has simply don't stand up. I mean, this radar scan thing looks like Space Invaders mixed with Pong. The saucer itself is okay, but it doesn't appear to be based on anything, so it doesn't look like saucers we'd be more used to. And the studio mock-up is way too small for the interiors we see inside. I generally like the ship's interior design though, and the pictogram language and all of that. It does look like they tried to make something half-decent anyway. This one was a VHS staple, and eventually, Hangar 18 made its way to TV. And when NBC ran the movie, they used a different title, Invasion Force, so they could cash in on the interest from the V miniseries. I guess I'll give this one 2 paws. Hangar 18 has some retro appeal and some good cast members, and in spite of itself, the movie is neither as good or as terrible as you may have heard. It's worth a watch at least once. You take care of yourselves, and I'll see you in the next one.